As we continue with materials and we go to make materials a bit more realistic, when we go in our material editor, we'll see things like our Arch and Design material here, right? It's just a solid color gray. Most of the time, at least with toys that get beat on, things aren't going to stay perfectly solid colors. So we're going to drag another noise in here and we're going to connect that noise to the diffuse color map. So once I do that, now this noise map takes over. So what we're going to do, we're going to double click the noise and we're going to go in and take a look. Now I'm going to start with a darker gray and we're going to adjust the size again. So we'll bring that down to, let's 0.3. So it's not exactly the same size as the bump map. So let's take a look. So as I render, now I'm breaking up the color pattern there as well. So we can see that a little bit better. Let's go turn our noise map off. So for now, let's just unwire the bump. So we can see the texture that we're creating there a little bit more. All right, so now when I look at modifying this, I want to see a little bit more defined edge between these two colors. So we're going to go back into our noise map and we're going to adjust the high and low values. As I bring the high value down and the low value up, what we'll do is actually create kind of a steeper edge so we don't have as much soft transition between those two colors. So it's going to define the pattern a bit more. We can also look at different types of noise. So the fractal noise gives a bit of a different look. And then the turbulence is quite a bit different as well. So for this, I think fractal is probably the better way to go. And we'll adjust our high and low value a bit more. Now, I want a little bit more of the kind of black in there. So rather than just making this darker gray, because I want that color gray in there, I'm actually going to add another noise. And I'm going to grab another noise in there and I'm going to wire that into the color 2 parameter of my first noise. So you see here, that now is another noise inside this color. So within this noise, we're going to make this a darker gray. And if we really want to, we can go back here and I can right click and copy that gray and put that into this gray. So now when I render, I'll have a lot more of the black and a little bit of the gray. Well, let's go back. And this value, the size here, is still too high. So let's make that 0.5 so that they're not identical. And let's bring the high and low values on this together. So what I'm doing is basically nesting one noise inside of another noise. And by breaking up the overall color pattern, I can kind of randomize the look of it. So let's make this a little bit bigger. We'll make that 1. Then we'll take this one and make it quite a bit smaller. Make that 0.1. So you can see now I've got this softer pattern. Let's zoom in on that arm a bit more. I've got this larger, softer pattern that's filled with a smaller pattern. So now that's quite there. It definitely increases my ability to add realism to things. So instead of just noise, maybe color 1 here, I can add dent. Let's drop a dent into color 1. And then let's take a look at these values. It might be a touch too strong, but dent works pretty nicely as far as bump values go. So let's look at that. We'll bring this back up a bit, make it 5. So we're getting pattern within pattern within pattern. And we can start breaking things up pretty nicely. Now within our noise, we can also start to add some color. So let's go in here and we'll change this black to, let's make it more of a orangey color. So you get a bit of a kind of a reddish rusty tint in there. So again, by breaking things up, we can add some more realism. It's a little too bright, so we're going to go in here, we're going to darken this a bit more. And maybe in this noise, we actually add another noise to go into color 2. 2. We make it really small. So again, we've broken up the overall color pattern to minimize the effect of it being too smooth and even. So then we'll wire our bump back in here. So that's a bit better. Now when we zoom out to a much more believable viewing distance of where we're actually going to be on the end product here. Probably more about there. We end up with an arm out here that has some color value change to it and ends up looking a lot more realistic. Now these in comparison feel much too uniform and flat in color. So we'll end up using this one out here. It's a nice shiny plastic that's got some nice kind of broken up value to it.